welcome to EdTechX Stories. My name is Benjamin Vedrenne-Cloquet. I'm CEO and co-founder of EdTechX Holdings and partner at Ibis Capital. EdTechX Stories is a short weekly interaction with CEOs, founders, investors, and innovators shaping and making the future of education and work. So welcome to EdTechX Stories, and I hope you enjoy our next session. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Anant Agarwal. I was born in 1959 in Lucknow, in India. I currently live in Weston, Massachusetts, a small city near Boston. I'm the Chief Open Education Officer at 2U and also a professor at MIT. I'm here to talk about the combination of edX and 2U and what it means for learners and instructors and professors all over the world in the future.
Anant Agarwal, welcome. Welcome to EdTechX Stories. You were until recently the CEO of edX, and you now have a new role because you merged with 2U. You are now Chief Open Education Officer at 2U. But before we talk about business, I have a personal question for you. How did you end up in that position? Is there a defining moment in your life or defining someone that inspired you to lead an education technology business?
I've been an educator all my life, so getting into edtech was pretty straightforward for me. However, the key defining moment for me was when I first joined college, IIT Madras, from high school in a small coastal town in India called Mangalore. I found that coping with college was very hard. I failed my first physics exam. I was one of two students in the entire college that failed the first physics exam. And in quite a bit part, that was because of the poor preparation I had in the small town for calculus based physics, while a lot of the bigger towns had prepared the students much better. And so, right at that moment, in my mind, I wanted to create a system where every learner anywhere in the world had equal access to high quality education, no matter where they were.
So that anger gave you the drive to become who you are today, right?
Well, you can call it anger or you can call it passion, but certainly that was what was very energetic for me.
Exactly. So the 2U and edX combination has now been completed. Congratulations. And so what are the implications for both learners and I guess faculty as well?
The 2U and edX combination will create much better access for learners all over the world with the additional resources and support and complementary technologies from 2U. We will be able to reach a lot more learners around the world. One of the biggest challenges I see is that there are all these opportunities for learning for free and high quality learning from top institutions on edX. But many learners around the world don't know about it. And so we will find a way to reach many more learners through the combined organization. Learners will see a lot more free options because of the combination. And finally, there will also be a lot more opportunity to learn different categories of things, all the way from boot camps to executive education to free courses to degrees. And so, in these three respects, learners will benefit, faculty and instructors will benefit as well, because we will now be able to accelerate the platform at a much faster pace, because not only will 2U become the largest developer of open edX, but the surviving nonprofit from which edX was created will also be owning open edX and developing the platform. And so I see a lot more platform development. I see a lot more support for faculty as well. And so I think both the learners and faculty will benefit from this transaction.
Okay. And as part of the new combination, you've taken the concept of mission statement to a new level because you've coined the concept of mission commitments. So what are those commitments?
It is highly unusual for a for-profit company to make some radical commitments to what are some of the characteristics that are held dear by nonprofits. And so these mission commitments were outcomes that were very dear to edX when edX was a nonprofit, and 2U has made commitments to them. So, for example, The combination of edX and 2U commits to a lot more free offerings for learners. They commit to making sure that every course on the edX platform, the MOOCs, continue to have a free audit track for learners. They commit to having an open source platform, Open edX, at the base of the platform. They also commit to IP being owned by faculty. They commit to quality. So these are all examples of outcomes that are very important to a nonprofit. And the combination of edX and 2U are also committing to these contractually, legally, so that these will continue forward to benefit learners and faculty.
Mhm. And as a chief open education officer, can you tell me how do you make the digital learning experience better than the physical one, and how you measure efficacy? And there are a lot of novice, I guess, getting into edtech because now it's been mainstream thanks or because of COVID. And so all those questions that we, control or know the answer of are popping up again. And so, how do you measure efficacy, and how do you make it better in a way?
So clearly, we measure efficacy through outcomes. You can compare how learners are doing when they take an online course versus an on campus course, and you look at how well they do in outcomes. So, for example, you can have learners take an online course and an on campus course, and at the end, you can give them the same exam. And you can measure how they do in that exam. And we have done similar tests on edX, where at MIT, I was part of an experiment where we divided a class into two halves, where half the class roughly got a purely online course on edX and circuits, and the other half a purely in person course. And we gave them the same exam. And the results were similar. And so these are ways in which we can measure efficiency and outcomes. We can also look at how students are faring once they complete online courses in terms of the job market. So, for example, 91% of learners on edX who've completed a MicroMasters tell us through surveys that within about 3 months, they have career advancements like a promotion, a pay raise, or a new job, for example. So, these are ways in which you can tell that learners are benefiting from online learning, and that online learning is competitive with on campus learning. To your next question of how do you improve online learning, now, there are many mechanisms. The edX platform pedagogy is based on active learning, where rather than having the students sit in a 1 hour lecture, we interleave videos and interactive exercises so that students watch a short video and then they answer a question so they recall what they've learned. And so, this kind of approach where we interleave knowledge checks interleaved with knowledge transfer is called active learning. That's a core pedagogy of the platform, and it's been scientifically proven to have much better learning outcomes than just plain knowledge transfer by sitting in a lecture hall. Other examples include self paced learning, where when students can pace themselves, it is well known that learning outcomes can be better. In the MIT experiment, students said that the flexibility was one of the big advantages. The stress that students felt was reduced by a whole standard deviation compared to the on-campus students. So the self-pacing is helpful. Instant feedback of online learning, where when you answer a question, you get an immediate response. Did you get it right or wrong? You can get an immediate hint. Imagine doing that in person. It's impossible. And here with online, we can do this kind of instant feedback at scale. Hundreds of thousands of students can be taking a course on edX and getting that instant feedback for a lot of these question types so that they can review the answer. Then instant feedback has also been proven in scientific studies to have better learning outcomes. So these are just three examples of how online learning can improve on learning outcomes compared to in-person learning.
I often compare edtech to biotech, or medtech in the way that it's about trying, measuring efficacy, doing experiments, and then scaling. How far do you think we are in terms of cracking, learning science? And do you think we are at the beginning of this? Do you think we're ready to scale? Do we are ready to go mass market? What's your view on this?
I think the opportunities are endless. We have applied cognitive science techniques and the computer science techniques, computational techniques to improve learning outcomes today. However, we are just scratching the surface. There is so much more to do. There's so much more that we can apply. There's incredible advancements in AI. incredible advancements in cognitive science that we should be able to apply. As an example, in my circuits course in edX, an MIT student working with Professor Sanjay Sarma, a real expert in learning at MIT, and a mechanical engineering professor, did an experiment with spaced repetition in the edX platform, where students are given the same concept to learn in increasing amounts of time so that they recall and store the knowledge in deeper parts of the memory. That's another, just a cognitive science approach that we're experimenting with. But you can imagine applying all kinds of learning, learning science and cognitive science and AI to learning. And so I think we're just scratching the surface. There's so much more that we can do. If you take an analogy of cell phones, cell phones first came out, the mobile phones, in the 80s, and today we are, just about 30 years later. Here we have an incredible smartphone that is completely changing the world, which is completely different from what we had 30 years ago. So in similar part, the whole MOOC movement was really when online learning really took off. And we've just been in this business for about 10 years, so there's a lot more to do and a lot more distance to go.
Mhm. What's the one thing about online higher education you wish was discussed more?
I would say that the one thing about online learning that we'll discuss more would be the fact that online learning can be as good as campus-based learning. Uh, for some reason, a lot of campuses and professors have a feeling that somehow in-person learning is better because they're more familiar with it. But as COVID came about, everybody pivoted to online learning, and suddenly, both for learners and faculty, online became a real option. And many studies have shown that two-thirds faculty and two-thirds students actually want more online learning, more online modalities be brought into the classroom, even for on-campus learning. So I think I would love to see more discussion of how online learning can be brought into the campus, and create blended models of learning. I just don't think we're talking enough about it and the opportunities for learners to do better.
Okay, very good. I'm guessing you are a lifelong learner.
Yes, I am.
So what are you learning these days?
Well, it's not surprising. Um, I've been thinking about how can we apply the latest techniques in cognitive science and AI to learning. I've been thinking about, what can we do 10 years from now? How could learning change 10 years from now? And to do that, I'm trying to learn more about cognitive science. I'm trying to learn more about the latest techniques in AI, latest techniques in AR and VR, to see how we can apply these to learning and create even bigger transformational changes in learning using these technologies, whether on campus or fully online. So I'm learning these so that I can apply them for the future.
Is there an edX course on this?
Well, we do have edX courses. Google just launched a great course on edX called AI for Everyone. I believe AI is so foundational to everything we do today that everybody needs to learn it, and so that's a great course. And we certainly have courses on, online learning, how to create great online courses. We also have courses in AI and AR and VR and other techniques that people can take.
Okay. We're getting now to the next section of this interview called the rapid fire questions. So I'm just going to ask you A or B. You could have to answer. No jokers. Some questions are going to be hard. So you have to answer that with your heart or with your head. Okay. You ready?
Yes.
Degrees or skills?
Skills.
State school or private school?
State school.
Profit or impact?
Impact.
Learners or shareholders?
Learners.
Teacher or technology?
Teachers.
You were very decisive, Anant. Chip Pausek struggled with degree or skills because obviously he has a bit of both, right? With between
Yes.
edX and 2U. So that was interesting. Finally, who would you like to nominate to be part of our next EdTechX stories, and tell us why?
Benjamin, I I've already talked about Professor Sanjay Sarma, a friend and colleague at MIT. I would nominate him to be a guest on your show. He's a world expert in cognitive science. He was a inventor of RFID technology. He has been on the board of edX for many years, and he heads up open learning at MIT. And he's written a book on cognitive science and how it can be applied to learning. So he would be a fantastic person to appear on your show.
Well, thank you. And Sanjay, he will come. We will contact him for sure. Well, this was Anant Agarwal for EdTechX Stories. Anant, thank you very much and see you soon. Bye bye.
Thank you very much, Benjamin.